How are you, man?
Good. How you doing? You all right?
Good. I'm good.
Have a good day?
Yeah, we're just doing a little video here on of acting, studying acting on the other side of the camera.
Yes.
And why it's important for people to know what the process looks like. And unless, you know, who's ever on the other side of the camera understands and is aware of what the creative process is of who it is that they're representing in front of the lens, they're not going to fully realize the content, the value of the content. And by that I mean the emotional values, the subtle values, anything that may be subtextual, that's within the performance that actually contributes to an understanding of the content and of the text itself. That gets lost because people are interested in the technical execution of it, as opposed to the actual emotion of it, or the actual power of whatever is being done there. I'll give you an example. When we were doing Collar, we're in the middle of the scene and somebody dropped something off camera. So we reacted. But I was a director in the scene, and the camera had enough sense not to shut down until I said cut. And I did not say cut. I went right back to the scene. I used that moment, made an adjustment, and kept going. And this is really important why an editor you should know this process. Because the editor says to me, oh, we can cut that. And I said, no. I said, you leave that, here's what I want you to do. I want you to give me a gunshot and a car chase. So in the gunshot, right, fits right in that moment. It's like, and we react to that, and what it did was, ultimately, it contributed to the tension in the scene, because you got that not only were we at this motel that we shouldn't have been at, we're in a part of town where it's dangerous to be, period, for anybody to be, right? And I cut that together with another piece on the outside. I had my partner, who was played by Jamie Santana, at one point he did something where he stepped forward and looks, right? And I told him to do that after we shot the one scene. I said, listen, just do me a favor, right? At some point, just make like you hear something and step out to look where it came from, okay? And then you go right back to leaning up against the wall, right? And he did, and it synced up perfectly with what I wanted to have happen there. So it added another whole layer to what, you know, to the text of the script, just because we captured something in performance that was what Stanislavski used to refer to as a creative accident. So like when you're acting, when you're doing a scene, or you're in an improvisation, and something occurs that you know, improvisation, obviously, anything can happen in improvisation, and it's really important that when you're in improvisation and something goes on that you can't anticipate, that's like gold. That's like absolute gold, because what it does is it takes you to another level. You know, you have to make an adjustment that's a completely natural and purposeful adjustment to be able to compensate for what just occurred. Even in the repetition, right? If we're doing the repetition, and the repetition is consistent throughout all of the improvisation, all of the exercises that we do in the early stages of development. Anything can happen in the changes within the repetition. The repetition remains in everything, right? And eventually when you get to scripted material, you can then use it to elevate your performance to a higher level and a greater understanding. You know, I did this advanced communication work where you had to repeat anything that was said to you, get it, tell them you got it, and then repeat it, right? So they would say to you, okay, you have to go to the kitchen and pick up the mop and the bucket and bring it back here to do the floor. I have to go to the kitchen to pick up the mop and the bucket, I have to bring it back here. Got it? I said, got it, good, boom. That was it. And once that happened, right, it was very unlikely that you were not going to execute in the way that you said, because you did get it, because you acknowledged that you got it, and your consciousness is on a different level of receiving the information. If I'm working off of you in an improvisation or an exercise, okay, obviously you're not going to say get it, got it, but even if you just repeat it in your mind, in that split second, right, that you're hearing it, then it occurs differently than if you just bounce it back. So the repetition, and it never fails. It never fails. When I would find out that somebody else had studied Meisner on the set, I didn't care who they were. They could have been an extra, they could have been a tech person, they could have been anybody. And I knew I was going to be doing a scene next. I would play the repetition game with them just to get tuned in. Well, you know, I told you that homework that you guys do, that 5 minutes of homework, you guys been doing that?
I do that work when I'm not supposed to.
Yeah? Have you been doing it?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, but look, that you should really do that because that comes in incredibly handy. For instance, the clearing you should be doing all the time because what that does is it provides you with space to be able to absorb what's occurring in the moment, no matter what you're doing. Now, in terms of this work, you should be clearing all of the time. Like when you go for an audition or a meeting of any kind, you're subject to all these extraneous influences that have nothing to do with what it is that you want to do. And unless you clear it before you enter into the space of doing what it is that you're actually there to do, you're going to be affected by it. You're not going to be attentive to what it is that you want to get done. You're not going to be tuned into the moment with the people that are significant in that moment, right? The director, the writer, whomever there is at the audition, the other actor that may be reading with you, the camera itself, okay? You can't be present to all of that if you're still processing what it is that you just left behind. So my advice is always that when you get to a place to do something, right, that you stop at the door, clear. Just take 1 minute, stand outside, just clear. Now, when you walk through the door, right, first thing that you do when you go to an audition is you go and sign up. You sign the audition form. But the point that, the point is, every one of those people, if they're going to get up there, if they don't have training to be able to create what is desired as part of the fabric of what it is, the tapestry that they're building, okay, it doesn't make any difference that they show up and they get, they make that one payday. It's not going to go farther than that. You want to take things that you can build on. The way that you do that is you get recognized for who it is that you're being and what it is that you're doing in the moment. So that when somebody says to you, okay, Chandler, on action, I want you to go over there. I want you to pull open the car door, and I want you to grab the guy that's inside of it, pull him out of the front seat, and push him up against the car. That's the direction. Okay, who are you? What are you doing there? Why are you doing this? They don't have time to answer those questions, by the way. They are not likely to even know what the answers are. It says in the script, the guy goes to the car, he pulls the guy out of the car, right? And that's happening in the background. Okay? So there's no scripting for that. That gives you the license and you the right to create anything that you want to create in that moment. And if it's too much, the director will say to you, oh, that's a little bit too much business over there. Okay? Can you tone it down a little bit? I like what you're doing, but let's tone it down. Look, you can never give. Too much is always good. Too little is worthless. You can always pull back. You can't. It's very difficult to add on. You can't figure out how to do that. But the more you fill out whatever the character is that you're playing and who you're being, even in the background. People talk about extra work. There's no such thing as an extra. There are no extras in film. It's like extra money. What is extra money? Have you ever been able to grasp that concept? I have never been able to get what extra money means. It's always assigned someplace. It's going somewhere, right? Well, it's the same thing in a performance. There's no such thing as an extra. There are bit players. But they are all part of the tapestry. The background is as important. Without what's happening in the background, there's nothing in the foreground. It's extremely difficult to make something out of nothing. unless you are making something out of nothing in that moment. You take that nothing that's there and you fill it with something that you have the power to create. Well, for instance, so you start at 175 and somebody sees you creating a real character in the background, and the AD comes up to you and says, listen, the director likes what you're doing, so what he'd like to do is, he'd like to take a shot at what it is that you're saying when you do that. So he's going to give you some dialogue. Now you have just stepped into the bigger game. But it's not even the pay. It's that they keep bringing you back because they know you're doing something that's real. That's real for them. It's important that everything that you do as an actor is real, or appears to be real. And in fact, for you as the actor doing it, it is real. Anyway, so let's go back to this audition process, okay? So even a meeting process. You go in, this is going to happen to you every single time, I guarantee you. You're going to go for a general meeting. That's the first order of business when you're first meeting with casting directors or, agency, whatever it is. And the agent says to you, or the casting agent or the casting director says to you, well, listen, can you stick around and can you read a scene for us? Well, you don't ever want to do that. Well, sometimes you may be in a situation where you decide that you're forced to do that, but I tell everybody that I work with, you tell them that you make sure that you got something set up so that you can't stay. You just make sure you got something to go to so that you can say to them, yeah, I'd love to, but I tell you what, if you give me a script, I'll take it, I'll come back. I can come back later, but I got this other meeting I got to make, right? That way you can at least have the time to get some time to look at the material. Okay. Now, if you're going into a meeting and they send you sides beforehand, right? Then you're expected to be able to be prepared to do that. That's a different thing. You have the material. You have the ability to explore whatever the possibilities are for the creation of the character. There's a very specific way that you will work on it. It's the same way that you work on a monologue, which is why you have a monologue. Because if you have a monologue that you can pull out of your back pocket, you can say to them, look, I don't have the time now, but I do have a prepared monologue. I have a couple of different kinds of monologues I can do. What kind of pieces? Is it comedy, drama? Is it period piece? What would you like? Is it classical? And then, you should always have at least three. You should have a comedy, you should have a drama, preferably both contemporary, and you should have a classical. And you can be any combination of that. The more pieces that you have that you can pull from, the better. But you should have at least one monologue that you can post on these websites so that they can see how you deal with scripted material as an actor, as an artist on camera. Okay? And when you go in live, you want to make sure that that thing is fresh with you, so that when you tell them that you like, I'll do a monologue for you. If you got a couple minutes, I'll be glad to do that and put it on camera. That'd be great. Because remember, they're gonna, anytime they sit you down to do any kind of audition material at this stage of the game, they're gonna put you in front of the geese. You're gonna be on camera. And they get to do that exactly once. And I'm telling you this because this is, they will shoot you as many times as they possibly can. What you don't do is you don't give up the pantry for the cookie. You go in, they want to record you, let them record you with a piece of material that you're familiar with, one that you've worked on, one that you've created, that you've developed along with whoever your coach is, or your partner, or whatever it is, but that you have been in control of. You can drop it on them right there. They can go and take a look at it in video and say, look, you can check me out, here, you can use this video, or I'll do it right now for you if you want. Because that's really what they want to see, whether or not they can direct you in that moment. And they can see something from you, and you can make adjustments on the fly, on the spot. The one time is fine. Whether it's your piece of material, or if you've had time to prepare a script. The script, you work on the script the same way every time. The first time you read it through, and ultimately, if you end up in a situation where the only time you have to be able to prepare is the time that they give you while you're there, then you do the same process. You read it the first time through to get the sense. Second time through, you find out where the emotion takes over. Third time through, you read it to see where the changes are before that emotion arrives. Fourth time through, you're looking for how you can attach it to yourself, what meaning you can give it for yourself. And the fifth time through, you're looking for what it is that you can be doing in that moment. Because acting is doing. But in an audition setting, in an audition process, you have to reverse it. Rather than look at the doing first, right? When you're analyzing a piece of material that you're working on over term, you start with, well, what am I doing here? What am I doing in this scene? And then you get to build the other things in. But if you don't have that time, you look for the other things that would have normally been built into your performance, and you finalize it with what is it that I can be doing that I can scale to doing it here in this moment in front of this camera or in this space. But then once again, if you're going to do that, there are rules that are specific. Remember, I told you this is all subject to the rule of force. In the repetition, it's observe, right? Express, listen, repeat. You're doing something that is inherently difficult in its doing, no matter what it is. The second thing is, it has deep personal meaning, it has urgency, and there's a consequence for not getting it done. Those things, if they're not there, any of those things are missing, it's not going to work. Once you've got all of those things, you're going to read, right? Don't try to memorize this. Don't try and memorize the script in the moment. As a matter of fact, when you're set for a reading, even if they send you material the day before and they want you to read, you're not going to, don't try and memorize anything. I never memorized a line in my life. What you want to do is, you want to be between here. If I'm going to do a reading, I'm going to do a reading. They told me it's a reading, it's a reading. I'm going to be on the page, but I'm going to be off of the other actor. So I deliver my lines, and I look and watch and wait to see what occurs over there. I react to what occurs over there and give my next line as best I can. That's all you have to do. And once they've got that on camera, that's the last time they get to see that until they start paying you. And here's how that works. If you get to the audition and you clear before you go in, and you walk in and the first thing you do is write your name on that roster, you sign in, right? You do that 3 times. If they call you back 3 times, after the 3rd time, you're getting paid. You are entitled to a day rate. That's it. They have to pay you for a day. Now, you do it the first time, you give them that thing on the video. Second time you go back, there's a video camera there again. They call you back. First thing you do, clear, sign in. You go to sit down. Now, you're still reading, right? The reading's a little bit more detailed. You look a little bit more like the character. You're a little bit more familiar with it. You've had a chance to develop it a little bit further. You've been working on the character a little bit. But there's the camera again. And they say, okay, are you ready? You say, well, yeah, hold on a second. You're going to video this? And they say, well, yeah, everybody's getting videos. No. What do you mean, no? No. My manager will not allow me. Now, in this thing with the video, you're going to have the director who's going to be there, the casting director. The first one, probably just the casting director and casting associate, right? Now you got the casting director because you got their interest off of the first reading. And you got the director. And you got maybe the producer. You know? Could have that, right? They say, okay, well, if you're not going to read, if you're not going to be on camera, well, you got to go. Okay, thank you. And you get up and walk out. Guess what? You got that much closer to the job because you signed in, right? You've been there twice. I don't care how many people they see, how many people they put on camera. Guess who they didn't? And not only that, when you walk out that door and across that room, everybody else that's in there is going to say, wow, what happened there? And before you hit the street, the word's going to be out there, this guy walked out. Or this woman walked out on them. And they're going to say, whoa, what's this case? Well, they don't know what your case is, right? But then everybody wants to find out. This is how it works. You got to trust me on this one. And they said, so they go through, they got 500 videos. They watch all 500 videos, and they may have 50 people in there that can do it as well as you can, but guess who they don't have and who they got to see? That's right. So now, number 3, right? Now you've been there 3 times. What's after that? Payday. And here's how that works. Now you come back, the camera's there, but they don't turn it on. They're going to turn it on for everybody else, but they know better than to try and turn it on with you. And now it's not just him or her or them. It's all of them. If it's the network, it's the network, it's the sponsors, it's the producer, it's the director, it's the casting director, it's a casting associate. You may have another actor, they've got another actor for you to work with. All of a sudden, there's big money that they've started to lay out just to see your stuff. So guess what the investment is? How likely are they not to hire you when they've already put this all out there? But now you got to deliver the goods when you get there. You have to know that you're ready to go. And every time you go there, there's one question. You ask one question. They're going to ask you, do you have any questions? The last thing that you want to do when a casting director on your first reading asks you if you have any questions, and say, no, I think I got it. You don't ever want to say that. Why? Because the first thing that occurs in their mind is, oh, really? Well, let's see what you got. But if you say, yeah, I have one question, and they say, okay, what is it? And you say, what's my relationship? Guess what you just did? First of all, you guaranteed your callback. You practically guaranteed your callback. Why? What's the name of the person on the other side of that camera? The person that's in the room with you that called you in for the meeting? Casting what? Guess what you just asked them to do? Right. And guess what it is that they really want to do? So you just asked them to do, you may be the only one that asked them to do exactly what it is that they came here, that they would rather be doing than anything in the world. And you're the only one. So when you say, yeah, I have a question. Really? Yeah. Well, what's the question? Well, what's my relationship to the other actor, to the other character? Oh! Wow, you've been married for 10 years and you're interested in the girl next door, you're not really interested in her anymore. Okay. Any other questions? No, got it. Bam! You just gave them the opportunity to direct, and what they're going to see, whether they see it or not, they're going to see it. They're going to see their direction. They're going to know that, and guess what? Guess who they're going to promote above everybody else that doesn't ask that question? You. Never fails. Never fails. So now, the second time you go back, we kind of roll back a little to the second time you go back, before you ask about the camera, when they say, do you have any questions? Right? That question is that camera going to be running? Yeah? No. So now, you go back the third time, you got everybody in the room. And they even have a camera in the room, and they have a camera operator, but they're paying him, and he's not doing anything, right? Then they say, you got any questions? Because they're going to ask you every time. The casting director is going to go, well, you already asked me a question. But you don't ask them the same question. The question is, how do you want me to play this? And the director says to you, oh, you are angry. You are really angry. Okay? Then you have to have a preparation. And you may know that when you go in. You may know the answer to all of these questions. But you still ask the question because you want to call them out. No matter what the situation is that you go into, you have to believe that you got the upper hand. Because you know what you got. They don't. They don't know. They have no idea who you are, what you can do. You're about to blow their socks off. But, hey, they don't know that. So when you say to me, okay, how do you want me to play this? They tell you, and you make that adjustment and then they see it. Now, the difference is with the camera running and not running, they can dissect, they can run the over and over and over and over and over until they decide, nah, that's not right. This, they get to see you once, and they have to, between them, come up with a perception. Is this the guy? Is this the girl that I want? But then it's here, it's in their imagination. It's not there in evidence. So now, guess what? They're never going to hire you on that one either, because now they've got all these other people, they got this whole investment and they see the whole day. Now they're down to 2 or maybe 3 choices. And guess who's in there? You are. See? Because they're still not quite sure. And they want to see it on film. They definitely want to see it on film. But guess what they have to do? Because you've signed 3 times, they got to do what they call a pre-test deal. They have to sign a piece of paper that says that if they hire you at this rate. If they don't hire you, they pay you for this rate. Now the test is a test. It's really lit, it's on set, it's got people, it's all there. It's a test. They're not going to take you this far and not spend the money to really find out who the major players are now. Who's for real here. And what you guaranteed yourself by getting this far is you're going to work. First of all, you guaranteed yourself a job when you walked out. Because if these guys don't hire you, there's 10 other outfits out there that have already heard by the time you get another call back that you did what you did, and they got to see it too. But you've already got a deal set. So no matter what part they offer you, or what part you get, or whether you go someplace else, you got a quote now. You know how valuable a quote is? That means a price that they're willing to pay to hire you to get to see what you can do. So even if you don't get this job over here, and this next guy says, yeah, well, we'd like to offer you a job, what's your quote? Here it is. This is my quote. Oh, well, we can't do that. Okay. Bye. You know, or what can you do? I like the part, I like you, we can work something out. You can't pay the cash, give me points. There's a way to play this game, okay? Because now guess what? So you finish doing the test and you got a pre-test deal. What's the best thing that you think you can do? Go out and tell everybody to celebrate? Tell everybody that you just tested and that they're da-da-da-da-da-da-da? Nah, you need a break. Disappear. Whatever you want to do, don't be available. Don't let them, first of all, they'll try and talk to you through your representatives, right? And renegotiate the deal or do some other nonsense, right? You're not available, they can't get hold of you. That's another thing. Don't ever give them your number. Give them the number of a representative, an attorney, a manager, an agent, whatever it is, don't ever give them yours. Because they will call you, and they will try and circumvent every time. They'll try and go around your people. They'll try and get directly to you because they know you have no idea what your value is. It's not your job to know your value. It's your job to know your job. To know your part, to know your lines, to know your character, to know how to work with the people that are on the set. That's your job. That other stuff belongs to somebody else. And guess what? You don't even have the job until when? Camera is rolling, quiet on the set. That's when you know. When that camera rolls, you got the job. Until then, anything can happen. And the less that you make yourself available for that anything to occur, the better off you are. So what you want to do is, until all of the papers are signed and the announcements have been made and you haven't been the one making them, go someplace where you can't get in trouble, you can't be compromised, you can't talk trash, don't even talk to your family about anybody. Just go, take them someplace nice, have a good time, relax. That's the best advice I can give you. Because I can't even tell you how many times people had jobs, they went out to celebrate, they got busted with a bunch of people who were doing things that they shouldn't even have been around, and the next thing you know, they're sitting in a gray rock someplace, and their career just went down the toilet. If you got the goods and you really can deliver, you can parlay it all as far as you want to take it. You get stupid, you get treated stupid. The egos are just colossal and they just take over. And you can't allow that to happen to you. That's why I'm saying, you know, when you're off camera, when you're off stage, go do charity work. Work in the community, you know. Get away from anything that can put you in a bad light. It's just not good. It's not a good idea. Anyway, back to this whole process. When you go for that final thing, right, there's still one more question. Right, now you know you're going to get paid. You know when you walk in the door, you've got all of these people there. I mean, when I did one for Len Goldberg, when they offered me Starsky and Hutch, the original Starsky and Hutch, right? So I'm doing this, and I come in and I sit down. I said, so are you ready to do this? I said, yeah, I'm ready. They said, do you have any questions? I said, yeah, one. They said, well, what is it? I said, when did we get started? They all broke up. They started laughing. When do we get started? Oh, no, you still have to test. I said, oh, okay. You know, that was it, right? That last question is always, when do we get started? Always the assumptive close. You always assume that you're getting the part, you're getting the role, you're doing the job. You get that far, you're going to be working. That's a promise. There's nobody that's going to keep you from working when you've gone that far. Anyway, that's it, folks. That's all, folks. I hope you got something out of this.
Yes, all the time.
Yep.
All the time.